I have the honor of rejoining you to introduce our next guest, Secretary Tom Vilsack. We are obviously very honored to have Tom with us, and I'm told that we have some exciting news here to talk about this afternoon. Tom's bio is in your packet. I'm undoubtedly, Tom is well known to this audience, so I'm not going to belabor that. I just thought it might be appropriate for me to provide a slightly more informal intro. I've been working in the organic sector like a lot of folks here really all of my adult life, since 1977. And if I had to name two characteristics that characterize those of us who put our hearts and our wallets into growing organics every day, I would say that one is that it's our commitment to think systemically about the big picture, ecological and economic implications, with a pretty big degree of consciousness about implications, I think, consequences. And the second is I think we're all pretty well described as pathological optimists. In these regards, I have to tell you that Tom is one of us. We became close friends during the lead-up and launch of his presidential campaign. Some of you may not even remember, or maybe some of you didn't even know there was one, but I will say that anybody willing to commit themselves and their families to such a bold, sacrificial, and completely preposterous undertaking can only be described as pathologically optimistic. Now, in all seriousness, I want to say, while the campaign was somewhat short-lived, we spent a lot of time together on the road. And as I watched Tom engage with both supportive and antagonistic citizens and truly, authentically listen and truly, authentically, and thoughtfully respond to their concerns. And you can imagine, you're running for president. It's everything, right? It's pretty much that's what the topics are. My admiration for Tom's intellect, for his dedication to his country, and particularly to rural America, and his profound concerns for our children really, really deepened. And regarding the systemic thinking that I think is common to all of us, there's simply no question that Tom and I don't see eye to eye on every issue, though I'm working very hard to bring him around on his deficiencies in that area. But I have come to know and respect Tom as a guy who thinks really extremely deeply about the issues that matter to all of us here. I've had the personal experience of relentlessly battering him with data to make a point, and I've grown accustomed to him following up, bringing me the arguments, replaying even the most obscure facts months and sometimes years later. Sometimes supportively, sometimes not, but deeply integrated into his well-thought-out position. Now, when President Obama tapped Tom to serve as our nation's USDA secretary, he told me, and many of us actually here, that he intended to be the champion of all forms of agriculture and food policy in America, and that he wanted the organic industry to view him as the go-to guy with our issues and concerns. And I'm here to tell you that he has lived up to that commitment. Just consider the last weeks and even the last few hours. Last week, Tom stood before the Senate Appropriations Committee and just declared flat out that the biotech riders were not helpful, and not something you would expect to come from the Secretary of Agriculture, and deeply, deeply appreciated, and of course, correct. On Friday, he took an unprecedented step of insisting on further review by authorizing, as I mentioned earlier today, two separate environmental impact statements to better inform decision-making on the 2,4-D applications that are there. Again, not something we have seen coming out of that office through any of his predecessors. And a few hours ago, only a few hours ago, Tom issued a landmark guidance on organic production to all USDA agencies in support of organic agriculture and markets. And I will not steal his thunder by detailing the changes and initiatives, other than to say in advance that, Tom, you really deserve the thanks and appreciations of our entire industry for your clear understanding of the vital role that organics play in our economy, but also our future. We are really fortunate to have such a good, caring, and thoughtful guy in this role, and we're obviously deeply honored to have you here. So please welcome Tom Vilsack.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Gary, thanks very much for speaking longer about my presidential campaign than the campaign itself. So I really appreciate that very, very kind and personal introduction. You know, a lot of times you get introduced by a lot of folks in this position, and you know, unfortunately, folks basically go on the web and they pull down your bio and they basically read it to folks, and to have somebody who I really value as a friend and who I have a great deal of admiration for spend some time actually personalizing the introduction. Meant a lot to me, Gary, so thank you very much. And thanks for your continued advocacy for organics. I thought that I would, before I go into sort of what we've done and what we're going to do and where we are with this, I thought I would put it in the context that means a lot to me, so that you understand why this is important, why organic agriculture is important to me. And it will probably be different than why it's important to you. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't make much difference why folks get to a particular point. It's just that they get there. I practiced law for 23 years before I got into public life on a full-time basis when I was elected governor of Iowa in 1998. Before that, I practiced in a small town in the southeastern part of the state of Iowa. I practiced with my father-in-law and my brother-in-law. We had a classic county seat law practice. Pretty much whatever walked in the door, that's what we did. During the 1980s, we were confronted in Iowa and across the country with a serious crisis in farming, where a lot of good, hardworking people who cared deeply about the land, cared deeply about farming, who cared deeply about their families, were confronted with losing everything they owned. They had purchased land at an inflated price, and the price basically declined and the notes came due, and they simply didn't have the resources to be able to make do. I met a lot of really good people during that period of time in my law practice. And I met people with some extraordinary stories. The most significant of which was a client who came in and explained to me how he had been extraordinarily proud of the 7 sons that he and his wife had born, that 6 of them had gone on to great careers outside of agriculture, and that the 7th son, the youngest son, had decided to stay on the farm. And because he did, they expanded their operation, and they expanded it too far too fast, and the result is they got overextended and they were in foreclosure. And this young son took it very personal that his parents would be threatened with losing the farm that had been in their family for generations. And he took his life. When you have somebody in your law office convey that story to you with the emotion that my client conveyed it to me, it never leaves you. And I vowed at that point in time in my life that if I ever had the opportunity in any public way to provide assistance and help to help agriculture, to help farmers, to help folks who lived in rural communities, that I'd use everything I possibly could use of my talents to do so. Because rural America is a special place. It's got special people who live in it. And unfortunately, over the course of our history, fewer and fewer people have been living in those rural areas as a percentage of our population. And our value system that's rooted in those rural folks is challenged. So organics, to me, is about preservation of a value system. It's about creating opportunity, particularly for small-sized operations, because it's a high value-added proposition. And it is about the opportunity for entrepreneurship and innovation to continue to prosper in rural communities. You know, for you it may be a completely different set of reasons. It may be for you the genuine belief that it's healthier, better, fresher, or whatever. But for me, it's about expanding economic opportunity in a very important place in America. So when I came into office, it was my theory to rebuild the rural economy based in part on production agriculture and export opportunities, based in part on conservation and the ability to expand opportunities in conservation to outdoor recreational opportunities, based in part on using our agricultural production to produce a wide range of fuels and energy that were not petroleum-based, and this local and regional food system, this direct-to-consumer relationship that a lot of organic producers have, and that's important to their operation, and the capacity to expand that opportunity to intermediary purchasers, grocery stores, and alike. Those were the four cornerstones. So we, first of all, established the importance of organics by establishing a separate office within USDA, the beginning of our recognition of the unique nature of organic production. We tightened the standards, understanding full well that that value-added proposition comes with an understanding that your requirements are significant and high. We extended a credit program that spoke specifically to those smaller producers, not the folks who were going to buy 1,000 acres, but somebody with a small amount of credit could buy that piece of machinery or lease that acre or two of land and get started. So we created a microloan program, which now has helped hundreds, and I think over time will help thousands of smaller producers access credit in a much more simple way with a lower interest rate and not requiring quite as much of an experience level as our larger credit programs. We expanded conservation funding. We've already identified over 2,500 organic producers who have received conservation funding under a commitment to provide at least $50 million of conservation funding to organic producers. We expanded our farmers market effort, providing assistance and help to really see an explosion of those markets, a 68% increase, but we didn't stop there. We also understood the value of consolidating and congregating, if you will, food products in food hubs that would allow standardization, it would allow a larger market opportunity. And we've nearly tripled the number of food hubs that are in this country. We are working on setting aside a certain percentage of our business and industry loan programs to provide larger scale loan guarantees for operations as they mature and get larger. And we entered into trade negotiations and discussions with Canada and the EU so that we could more freely trade organic agricultural products in Canada and EU, opening up foreign markets as well. We then began a difficult conversation, and Gary was part of that, as well as our good friend Walter Robb, where we began to ask the question, not whether it is one type of agriculture over another, whether there was a way in which various types of agriculture could coexist in the same general geographic area, knowing full well that that raised a lot of challenging questions. But as a result of the effort, we put 21 good, God-fearing folks in a room from all walks of life, and we almost locked them in that room and didn't let them out until they reached some consensus. I want you to know, folks, I gave a commencement speech at Tuskegee University over the weekend, and the genesis of the speech was that I'm a proud member of the murky middle. You know, I want consensus. I want people to work through the difficult and challenging issues that separate them. I want them to communicate with each other. I want them to respect each other enough to be able to talk to one another, even if they fundamentally disagree. That's what the AC21 committee did. They talked to one another. They listened. And as a result of that, we're now doing research that's looking at this issue of how extensive contamination potential is between GM and GE products and organic. We're looking at drift issues and what kind of mitigation strategies could we employ. What kind of stewardship could we encourage among GMO and GE producers to limit and reduce whatever the potential risks might be? We're looking at our risk management program to figure out ways in which we can do a better job of creating risk management opportunities against that contamination risk. And we're making sure that we preserve seed quality, so if an event occurs that compromises a particular organic production, that we'll be able to replenish that because we have on hand, if you will, the seed quality and the germplasm that is protected. We put the National Genetic Resource Advisory Council to work on doing just that. And we've significantly increased our research budget in the organic world. So that's kind of what we did in the first term. And now we're in a second term, and we need to take the next step. And part of that next step is indeed providing guidance to every department within USDA so that they recognize the significance and importance of organic as it's sort of its own separate entity, if you will. Requiring each department that has anything to do with organic or potentially having anything to do with organic to appoint a point of contact person so that you don't have to search in rural development or REE or FSA for that person who understands or appreciates or recognizes the importance of organic. You will know that person's name, address, email address, so if you have a question, a concern, you know who to go to. We're putting together an effort to increase the training among USDA employees about what this organic world means and how important it is. We've already trained over 14,000 employees in what we refer to as Organic 101. And we're now going to have a sort of advanced training for those employees. We've also begun a process of looking at our crop insurance programs, recognizing that they have been set up initially for commodity production, but now we're in the process of being more comfortable with expanding this and understanding and appreciating the pricing mechanisms that might be unique in organic production. We've identified 8 crops that we're currently using organic pricing for: corn, soybeans, cotton, processed tomatoes, avocados, and some fresh stone fruit. Beginning in 2014, we're going to use a slightly different mechanism. We're going to understand that in the organic world, you sometimes enter into guaranteed contracts that lock in a price, and that defines your risk as opposed to a market price that may fluctuate. And so we're going to take a look at how we might be able to allow that election in a wide variety of crops, maybe as many as 60 to 70 crops that will have this opportunity. And we're going to continue to expand this chance to minimize risk through the RMA, the Risk Management Agency. This is an important consideration for the growth of this industry. There was a surcharge that was placed on policies beginning in 2014. That surcharge is going to be removed. And we're going to continue to look for ways throughout the next several years how we might be able to reduce risk, how we might be able to minimize risk, how we may be able to better understand what it will take for this production method and process to succeed, and how it might be able to coexist with other forms of agriculture. We're going to continue to look for ways in which we can use our rural development resources to grow the market opportunities. We've established as a goal 100 food hubs that we want to provide assistance and help for. We want to continue to promote local and regional food systems. We want to continue to promote the over 100,000 farms that are involved in direct-to-consumer sales and increase that number. And we're pleased today that Senator Stabenow, who I think is your next speaker, has been able to successfully steer through her committee on the Senate, what I like to refer to as a food, farm, and jobs bill that includes a strong commitment to local and regional food systems, a strong commitment to organic. Senator Bennett was successful in getting his amendment through that will be supportive of this industry in the committee. And so there's positive forward movement for organic production in this country. And we are committed to it. Committed to it because it's the right thing to do, committed to it because there are a lot of people who believe strongly in this, and committed to it because it creates yet another opportunity for success and entrepreneurship and innovation and the opportunity to replenish the population of rural America. Now, why is that important to me? I've explained to you in one sense it's important because of the people I represented. I became a governor, and in that capacity I was the head of the National Guard. And when you're the head of the National Guard, especially during 10 years of war, you are going to going away ceremonies and coming home ceremonies of troops that are leaving their families and troops that are coming home, or some troops that do not come home, or those who come home and they weren't and aren't the same person that they were when they left. 16% of America's population lives in rural America, but nearly 40% of the military that has been fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq for a decade, the thousands who have lost their lives, the tens of thousands who have come home with one injury or another, 40% of those people are likely from those small towns. A disproportionate number. And if that population of rural America continues to shrink, the question is raised, who is going to serve the nation? You see, it's not just that there's opportunity in the military for people to leave small communities, and that's why they sign up. They sign up because there's a basic value system that they learn raised in an area, an agricultural area. Everyone in this room understands something about nature, and that is that you can't keep taking from it. You have to give something back to it in order for it to continue to give to you. It's a relationship. It's a two-way street. You have to replenish the land in order for the land to continue to be productive. Kids grow up understanding that basic value that if there's something really important that you can't keep taking from it, you've got to give something back to it. And that's why they disproportionately sign up, because they understand and appreciate that this country gives them a lot, and it's an expectation of their family and their community that they give something back. So this is important to the country, that we continue to expand economic opportunity. And organic basically represents a high value-added proposition. It represents an avenue that isn't quite as expensive, isn't quite as massive as a production agricultural opportunity might be. It represents an avenue where bright, smart, passionate people can live the life they want to live, produce the products that they want to produce, and have a relationship with their customers. Why wouldn't we be for that? So I'm here today to tell you we are committed to this. We're going to continue to look for ways to make it work. You all may prefer one type of agriculture over another. I don't have that luxury, because I'm looking at the overall health and welfare of rural communities. So I'm going to be pushing everything and anything that gives us a chance to say to those young people, you got an opportunity to live, work, and raise your family in a small town. I'm going to say and do whatever I can to help agriculture, and I'm going to help try to facilitate this conversation, to try to bring people together. And I know it's not an easy conversation. But I look at the dissatisfaction that we have in this country with our political process, and the basic concern I hear as I travel around the country is, why can't people get together? Why can't they get along? Why can't they solve problems? So at USDA, we're committed to solving problems. We're committed to moving the ball down the field. And that's why I'm here today, to make sure you all understand this is personal to me. This isn't just part of my job. This is personal to me. And as a result, we're going to continue to make progress. We're going to provide that guidance. We're going to continue to understand and explain to people that organic is not the same as. It is actually, in a sense, its own separate commodity and needs to be treated as such. And we need to train people. We need to educate people. We need to bring people along. And I'm committed to that. So I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you today. And I hope that if you don't take anything from this, that you understand and appreciate how personal this is and how important it is. Not just to USDA, not just to agriculture, but to the country. You all represent what's great about America. I mean, Gary Hirschberg represents what's great about America. I mean, anybody who knows Gary's story, or for that matter, more importantly, Meg's story, she wrote a wonderful book about being married to an entrepreneur, a challenging exercise. You have a passion. You have a belief. And you don't give up on it, even though there are times when most people would. That's what makes it special. So I see the chairwoman's here. She's a happy woman today because she did a remarkable job today in the Senate Agriculture Committee. She navigated in record time a bill through the Senate Ag Committee, and hopefully she has a willing partner on the House side to get their version of a Food, Farm, and Jobs bill through the process, and hopefully they can then work out their differences and get this 5-year program, because it's important. I'm just going to leave you with two other points. I'd be happy to come back at some other point in time when you all meet again and not talk to you, but actually listen to you and take questions. But the chairwoman's here, so I don't want to take her time. But there are two issues that have got to get done in this Congress. And Chairwoman Stabenow has moved the first one through the first hurdle, and that is getting a 5-year farm program through, so we have some certainty and some consistency and some ability to continue to support organic and specialty crops, which we did not get with an extension of a portion, some but not all, of the 2008 Farm Bill. And secondly is an issue of immigration. This country has got to deal with the fact that we have a broken immigration system and its impacts and affects agricultural production, it impacts and affects organic agricultural production. There is a solution to this. It will take political courage to get it done, but it must get done this year, because it will not get done in an election year. So as you talk to your friends and neighbors on the Hill, as you circulate around talking to your political leadership in your respective states, please encourage them to get that job done. Rural America needs a farm bill, and they need immigration reform, and they need a strong, healthy, organic agricultural production. Thank you all very much.